Well, this is our last session on chapters 2 and 3. Explanatory session, perhaps for those in the church who haven't been able to attend. And for those of you who are students at FC College or maybe watching this video, it is meant as a repetition or explanation or additional class to help you with understanding the concepts of um, the building blocks of a Greek sentence. Simple sentences, part 4 or part D. As we come to this section, it will be quite a bit shorter, I think, than the last one, section C, which are part 3, or C, which was perhaps our longest of all. Let's see, I'm going to lean forward just a moment and you'll see my bald head because I forgot to line up section C, this part. There we are. And we're going to, even though it may seem complicated, we're going to, I think, be able to move fairly quickly through this final part, which concentrates on the second half of chapter 3 and the rest of the cases of second declension masculine nouns. You remember that we said that in a Greek sentence, the different parts, especially nouns, their function is determined by their endings. The Greek language is very much a language of inflection. We have, as we said before, a little bit of inflection in English in the third person singular. Instead of have, I have, you have, he has, H-A-S. A little bit left over in our English language, but in general, we don't inflect in our language much anymore. Even words like who and whom and whose some of those are falling out of use as well. But Greek certainly has kept, or had kept at this time, our Koine Greek period, the inflected language, and enables us to notice words that are being stressed. So it is actually very useful. If you turn to page 56, we should be able to move through this final section fairly quickly. The reason being that for those of you who are having trouble with the grammatical concepts here, probably the English language or English grammar is, your knowledge of English grammar is weak. And I would suggest that rather than me trying to explain in technical detail what a direct object, what an indirect object is, what an object of a preposition is, what a preposition is, and so forth, that you go to a good website and just brush up on English grammar. What are the simple main concepts of English grammar? What is a subject? What is the object? What is an indirect object? If you don't know, you can find out by studying on one of those sites, and there are many. I won't try to suggest any. I'll let you look for them. But let's just look at the function of the rest of the cases along with the nominative case and the I'm not sure I've got the right one. This is syllabification. I'm sorry. Let me see which. I thought I'd chosen part D, but I don't seem to have done that. Here we are. Got the wrong one. Okay. Simple sentences, part D. If you turn to page 56 and section 3.2, I hope that you had fun with the exercises on page 55 and 56 as homework. And they would be good practice, especially English to Greek. Writing out sentences in Greek is a good exercise to show that you are getting used to how the words function. Notice we have 3 new cases. They're called the vocative. If you look at section 3.2, the title, the vocative, the genitive, and the dative cases. What did we have before? We had the nominative case and the accusative case. We had 2 cases, singular and plural. Now we have 3 more, in the singular and in the plural. So we have 10 forms that a noun in a second declension, there will be other declensions. You'll find out what a declension means. There will be 10 forms in the second declension masculine nouns. And these are all masculine nouns like logos. The forms are as follows. Loge, logon, logu, logo with iota subscript. Remember, we talked about the iota subscript at the very beginning, and now we see it's important to have it and to remember it because it shows the dative case. The dative case is a case of the indirect object or the object of prepositions. And we'll see what we mean when we look at some sentences. But notice that the word logos that we have in our vocabulary on page 55 changes. The endings change depending on the function of the word. The vocative case is the case of addressing someone. So if I address word, if someone is perhaps called word, or I might even put the word "oh" in front. Oh, word. If I'm addressing him, this person called word, then I would use the form loge. Singular shows a direct address. If the word is the direct object, the man speaks the word. We had that last time in the last session. It is in the accusative case. If the word is showing possession or object of certain prepositions, it is in the genitive case. And usually we translate this, especially in declining. We say now we are declining a noun of a word. And dative case, the dative case is the case of the indirect object or to or from. So very often we will write to and then I slash from a word, showing the English translation of the dative case. But we have plurals as well. Remember logoi, words. The same form, exactly the same if you're addressing words. Oh, words. What do you say? You may be writing using a figure of speech, addressing words. Unusual, but it could happen. If you are speaking words, they are logus. Of words, or words pronunciation, the pronunciation of words. Pronunciation might be the subject, then of words would be a genitive case, which further defines the word pronunciation. The pronunciation of what? The pronunciation of words, or the word's pronunciation. which would be showing a possessive form. The genitive is the case of possession. And the dative case, again, is the case of to or from, indirect, logos in the plural. So these are the endings that we need to learn for the masculine nouns, and they stay the same no matter which masculine noun we have. Logos, if you'll notice on page 59, we have some new words in addition to the ones we had on page 55 that are masculine and end in os. And the first one on page 59 in vocabulary 3.2 is angelos, not agelos, but remember, two gammas together, it becomes new, like sound like a nu and g, ng, angelos, angel or messenger. And then we have cosmos, and we have oikos, house, ochlos, crowd. And then he shows us some articles, which brings us to our next subject. No, it's not quite the next subject. We want to look just briefly at some sentences with these words in the new cases. Anthropos lege logon. Anthropos is in the nominative case. Logon is in the accusative case. So a man is speaking a word, or a man speaks a word, simple present, either one. The vocative case is used to address somebody, and the accusative, the direct object of the verb. Anthropos lege logon. A man is speaking logon, a word. We know that logos is the direct object. It's not the subject of a sentence because it's in the accusative form. It has the ending on, not os. And the genitive case is used with certain prepositions, apo and ek. You'll notice that we have some prepositions introduced to us in vocabulary 3.2. Apo and ek both mean from, a little bit different emphasis and idea. Apo, to, oiku, ek, to, oiku, both have the genitive case endings afterwards. Notice also has the article. And it's used to indicate possession, not just with prepositions. Ho oikos doulou is actually the house of a slave. Ho oikos, the house, doulou, of a slave. Or we can translate a slave's house, not the slave's house, because we don't have two doulou, the slave, just a slave. The house of a slave. Genitive indicates possession. The dative is, well, it's a complicated case, really, but it's used with certain prepositions, especially in to, oiko, in the house. Notice that oiko, and you have to know which prepositions take which cases because each of them is different. But in takes the dative case. So if you are in something, it must show it with the dative case. In oiko, in a house. In to oiko, in the house. Certain verbs don't take the accusative case as the direct object. They take the dative case. For example, pistuo is the word for believe or trust in the New Testament. And if it's used directly with a direct object, it's pistuo angelois. I believe angels. Angels is the subject. Why in the dative case? Well, because pistuo takes the dative case for its words that are objects. I believe, pistuo. You believe, pistues. He, she, it believes, pistue. But what do we believe in? Or what do we believe? We believe angelo, iota subscript. I believe an angel, or I believe angels. Angelois is plural. And with verbs of saying or giving especially, we often have indirect objects. Anthropos lege logon to lao. Indirect object is indicated by the dative case. A man is speaking a word to the people. To lao is the word laos, people, but in the dative case. Notice the endings, not Laos, but Lao with iota subscript. So we have to remember what is the ending of the dative case, singular and plural. Now, we are able to decline nouns. Now that we have learned the 5 cases, the nominative, the vocative, the accusative, the genitive, and the dative, we are able to do what we call decline a noun. We need to be able to do this because we need to be able to understand simple sentences. And we need the singular and the plural. So if I ask you to decline the word doulos, slave, in Greek, here's what you will do. You give the nominative case, singular and plural, doulos, douloi. Then you'll give the vocative case. Sorry, it's not there. We give, sometimes we leave it off because it looks the same as the nominative case usually. In the accusative case, doulon, and the plural, doulus. I have slaves. Echo, doulon. Echo, doulus. I don't have slaves, by the way. Just using a sentence. Genitive of a slave, doulou. Of slaves, maybe the face of slaves, maybe the money of slaves, maybe, but of slave, the genitive, or a slave's money. You use the genitive case. And then we have the dative case, doulo, with the iota subscript, and doulois, with the ending ois. And now, here we have the vocative. I am addressing a slave, doule, slave. If I want to address the slave, I say doule. And the plural is the same as the nominative, douloi. Douloi, slaves. And I know by the context that I am addressing them and using the vocative case. The same thing will happen if I use angelos, and you would decline it the same as a doulos because both are second declension masculine nouns. They both decline the same way. And here I have a sentence, lego, I speak, or I am speaking. Tous logos, I am speaking the words, accusative, direct object. To the angel, to angelo. I'm speaking the words to the angel. Why the? Because to is the article, and it's in the dative case. Goes with angelo, also in the dative case. I am speaking, or I speak words, the words to the angel. Legomen, logos, angelois, we are speaking words to angels. Angelois, dative case plural. Notice that I have supplied the word to in order to translate the dative case of angelois, I have to indicate that angelois is dative case, and here indirect object. I speak words, direct object. Two angels, indirect object. Again, if you don't know what an indirect object is, you need to study it on another website in English grammar. Now, if you turn to page 56 again, you'll notice that we also have not only the endings of the nouns, we also have the article. Ha doulos, hoi douloi, ton doulon, tous doulus, tu doulu, ton doulon. And by the way, the genitive plural will never change. In every gender, in every declension, ton doulon, own, omega nu. That's nice that we have one that never changes, that we will always recognize as being genitive plural. Dative in the singular with the iota subscript, to, do, lo, plural, tois, doulois, vocative, doule. The masculine is the only gender that has a different form, actually, for the vocative case. The other genders use the same as the nominative case. So if you're addressing a woman, gune can be nominative, or if you're addressing her, gune would be then woman, your not nominative case, but vocative, but it's the same form. But not with the masculine. We have a special form, doule, for the vocative case, and the plural is the same as the nominative. So any noun that you know so far, you should be able to take and decline. That means to give all 10 forms of this noun with the article, because it's usually there. Special reason when it's not. You need to be able to decline a noun in all 10 forms, in all 5 cases, singular and plural, which lets us translate more complex sentences now. Not so simple as we finish this chapter. Ha cosmos, the world, ou thele, is not wanting or doesn't want, depending on whether we use the simple present or the continuous action present. The world is not wanting. The world does not want, ton logon, the word to theou, of God, of God. Now notice, not of the God. This is one place where you have to drop the, because, well, really, God is being used more as a name here rather than, say, a God. Although theos, God, is a more generic noun, it is being, like I say, it's being used as a title or as a name here. So in English, we don't use articles with names. We don't say the Peter, the John, the Jesus. In Greek, we very often find the article with names, but not in English. So the translation again is the world, not. The world is not, or does not want the word of God. The world does not want the word of God. And this sentence, to close our time, hoi adelphoi, notice plural of adelphos, the brothers, not the brother, but the brothers, plural form. The brothers akousi. Yes, we need a noun. We need a verb when the third person plural. If we have hoi adelphoi in the plural form. The brothers hear logos, words, ek to theu, from God, not from the God. Because here again, it is the one God that we worship, and the one God that we often call God, and is not just his description, God, but his name in many sentences. So the translation, the brothers are hearing words from God. So you see, as you go through the end of chapter 3, the second section, we find the rest of the cases that tell us how words are used, and we can build more complex sentences as we do so. Please notice section 3.4, accents on nouns. We don't have to learn this. These are very complicated rules, and the accents are already there in the New Testament. We don't need to learn how or why, keeping the information that we need to a minimum. So I think, I hope that this helps you to understand that Greek is inflected, and that nouns especially, we decline them. And the case in which a noun is declined tells us its function in the sentence. Is it the subject? Is it the object? Is it the indirect object? Object of a preposition. Possessive, showing possession. All of these things are shown by the ending of the noun and the article, if there is one, with it. So thank you. I hope that this is understandable now through chapter 3 for you, and you can begin to translate more complex Greek sentences. We will need this knowledge for translating the New Testament, but there are first a few other things we need to learn. So we will move on to neuter nouns next time in chapter 4. God bless. See you